Protect yourselves at all times.
The Ottawalling fight wasn't the first time Tyson Fury had to change his style in a fight. Like when he was trying to box with Steve Cunningham in America in 2013, and was coming up short after Cunningham floored him. Cunningham was too fast and too experienced. I actually picked Cunningham to win the fight, and I got accused of all sorts. And a lot of people thought I just didn't know what I was talking about. I was totally deluded. Now, they could still say that because Cunningham didn't win, but I think the performance he put up probably validated my pick a little more than what they originally thought. Also, because Tyson was traveling to America and it looked a bit rushed, no Peter Fury, I also took that into consideration in picking Steve Cunningham. What did he do? He resorted to more street fighting tactics, right? He used his forearm to set up the right hand that knocked out Steve Cunningham. And when Nassim Richardson, Steve Cunningham's coach, kicked up a fuss and wanted a rematch and said it was illegal tactics, what did I say? No. You're fighting a 6'9" guy. If he chooses to use roughhouse tactics with the leverage he has to use a forearm to set you up for the punch, you're going to come up short. It's as simple as that. No rematch needed. You was beaten by the bigger and better man. Simple as that. I've never liked making excuses for losing fighters. I've never been into it since I've ran the channel. I don't like it. I really don't. I see other channels do it. It's not my strength. It's not my job either. Whether I support the fighter or not. I might not be 100% on what I'm trying to get at here, but what I'm trying to point at is my consistency. I reckon it's pretty solid. Now, I'm guessing there'll be some losses where I might rationalize a little different how they lost. Yeah. They might get done on the scorecards. Yeah, I'll have a go on that. I didn't like the way Povetkin lost against Vladimir Klitschko. I had a lot to say on that one. Yeah, that was horrible. Yeah, it was horrible. But it was also his job to stop Klitschko initiating the clinch like that, and he wasn't able to. Like the Tyrell Williams fight with Prichard Colon. I don't think Tyrell Williams excessively fouled. I don't believe he did. I believe Colon threw low blows to try and even it up. It's a fight. It's a boxing match, right? I believe Colon turned into some of the punches as well, into some of the rabbit punches. I believe that. And he came up short. Now ask me, did Tyrell Williams fight a rough fight? Yes. Yes. But look, there's no time for, oh, woe is me. You have to do your homework and you have to prepare for these eventualities in the ring. Look, if they're going to ban boxing, they're just ban boxing. But all this, we're going to put Tyrell Williams in jail. The fans of Colon saying they should put him in jail because he tried to harm and damage Colon. Of course he tried to harm and damage him. It's pro boxing. They say protect yourself at all times at the start. And then that's it, really. That's it. You better heed that instruction there if you're going to heed any. I remember when Jeff Franklin, let's say a journeyman, took on Gabe Ruiz. There was two brothers, Gabe Ruiz and Rafael Ruiz. And Gabe was undefeated, trained by Joe Goosen, promoted by Dan Goosen, prospect from SoCal. And he was beating up Jeff Franklin easy, beating him up easy. He landed one shot and he said he felt pain in his arm. He said that's when he believed his elbow broke. And Franklin's corner told him to throw punches at the elbow because it was visible that he was hurt. But Franklin still didn't have the ability to get the better of it, although you could see Ruiz was very uncomfortable. So in the 7th round, he took matters into his own hand when they got into an exchange, pressed his arm against the elbow, and twisted it to his right. My guy went down in agony. They said around the ringside, you heard it snap. It's not online. I saw the highlights on ITV way back, right? Fight was done. And listen, his career should have been over, really. He came back to fight. And he still won belts. He would have went on to do better things, but that fight ruined him. But that's boxing. That's boxing. And there was people saying, oh, Franklin's a dirty fighter. Well, you can say that, but he was brought in there to lose. He wasn't brought in that ring to win, right? So what was he going to do? Was he just going to tough it out for the rest of the 10 rounds so he potentially could get sent home with his brain bleeding all over the place? Because he didn't have the skill set to compete with the guy. So when the opportunity came to take advantage of the injured elbow, that's how that goes. That's just how that goes. You know, boxing's tough, bro. You know, with the Prichard Colon thing. Yeah, it was sad what happened to Prichard, and he's making a little progress now. Not much, but he's made a little progress. But is much a game of what goes around, come around. He was an undefeated prospect with Al Heyman getting the, let's say, the special treatment. The advantage is handed to him. Like, for instance, when he fought Vivian Harris, former world champion. Vivian was well faded by that stage. Just a few months before Prichard fought him, he fell to MRI in the UK. He was supposed to fight Bradley Skeet, but they still pitched him in. They didn't care if Vivian got fucked up, and neither did Prichard, and it wasn't Prichard's job to be bothered about that. But listen, it's just a lottery, literally, bro. What goes around in boxing comes around. There was a stage when Vivian Harris was a prospect before he became world champion, and they carefully selected his opponents who were disadvantaged. I can't really tell you if there's any right or wrong, but that's just how boxing has run since you began watching it, and me. It's a weird balance that makes it a beautiful sport. Marcus Brown headbutted Badu Jack. I won the fight. He fought Pascal, got butted himself, and got knocked out. I understand the emotion because of what happened to Prichard Colon, but yo, it is what it is. It is what it is. Nobody would have given a shit about Vivian Harris if Prichard Colon had damaged him up like that, because at that stage, Vivian didn't have no big support base behind him. But you watch how some of them Prichard Colon fans responded. Called my guy all types of N-word, Tyrell Williams, all types of N-word, Lynch that N-word, and this, that N-word, and yeah. If they ban boxing, they ban boxing. Pro boxing. I don't have no problem with it because I know why they're doing it. Hope it doesn't happen because I love watching it. Yeah? But all you people saying, that's unfair, that's unfair. Listen, I'm talking to the Prichard Colon fans. If it was the other way around, you'd be justifying what happened to Tyrell Williams, and you'd be finding all types of articulate arguments to explain why it wasn't Prichard Colon's fault. That's the truth. As humans, we want to participate in certain things that, if it does go left, we have no control of. And when it goes left, then it's blame culture now. That's what we do as humans. We are fans of a sport where most of the people who practice it come out the ring unhappy. They don't come out happy. They have neurological problems and all types of ailments that go along with getting punched to the body and the head. I think I should leave with the body because people forget the body. Listen, people think, it's just head. No. The body shots cause a lot of liver damage, which will in turn cause other sicknesses. The preparation for bouts, Richie Woodall was nearly crippled for life with back problems because he used to running. He used to run a whole lot on the concrete, and over years it started chipping away at the base of his spine. Had to retire. Joe Bugner, he was suffering from a crippling spinal injury, and that was attributed to his comeback when he was a middle-aged man preparing for fights. Yeah. I'm not sure if he's over the worst of it. I hear he's got skin cancer right now. Wishing him a speedy recovery, or a recovery of some sorts. It's not just the neurological damage that is a threat to the well-being of boxers. I'm not saying you can't say certain things are unfair or you should be happy about everything in boxing, but a little reality check is needed. The boxers going there with dreams of making money, and most come out broke. You know what story always pisses me off is the Wilfred Benitez one, because he was already showing signs, because he's got serious pugilist dementia, if I've got it right. And when he was boxing, he took a fight, I think in Puerto Rico, and the promoter stole his whole purse. And he was already broke at this stage. And you think, what a scumbag. I just like to slap that motherfucker around. I just like to slap that dude around a little, man. But I could do a video of all the unhappy stories. I'd have to do a separate video. Maybe a separate 2 free videos. And this is what we support. Bottom line. Didn't his manager take his passport? I think he took his passport. And he was stuck in Puerto Rico for about over a year and couldn't move. You see that brain injury charity who pulled up Robert McCracken, Headway, and organisations like the BMA in Britain? What would happen to most of us, to a lot of us, if we were forced to not watch no boxing or participate in listening to stories or catching up with the news for a year, and we had to work with Headway and see how brain injuries impact on society, family, and all things of that nature, and worked with them organisations 20 hours a week, just 20 hours a week, How much of us would return to boxing, do you reckon? There'd be a few of us who'd go back, but there'd be a whole load of us who say, nah, can't consciously support this anymore. Imagine if you was a surgeon working on a boxer or somebody who practiced combat sports, and you saw this young dude pass away on the table perhaps, or after surgery his brain is only going to work at a fraction of the capacity that it did before, and his body. You could understand why the surgeon or the people in the medical profession are not big fans of boxing when they're dealing with it really intently, like we don't. Frank Bruno suffered retina trouble 3 times in his career. Before he turned pro, he needed an operation in Colombia to repair some retina damage. Then he turned pro. That must be around 1982. In 1989, he challenged Mike Tyson for the world title and lost in 5. He suffered a tear on his right retina in that fight there. And incidentally, his last fight was against Mike Tyson when he won the title and defended against Mike and lost. That was his last fight. And he had to retire from retina damage. That's twice, 2 fights he fought Mike Tyson. Same result, got knocked out. Same result, needed eye surgery. And he retired for good. The second time, in 1989, when he was coming back, he just got the retina repaired. And he was out for maybe about 3 years. And he came back and he fought Jose Rebalta, the Cuban. Rebalta came to London talking about, I'm going to rip the eye out. He will be blind and won't want to box again after I finish with him. And, you know, Britain being Britain, you know, I mean, they didn't like that. And Bruno took exception to it, man. He really took exception to it. And it kind of worked in Bruno's favor. You know, Bruno was complaining, oh, this is disgusting for one boxer to say that to another, that you're going to blind him. We've got families. And, you know, he went to the whole speech. But it fueled up Frank. And he landed the hardest punch I've seen him throw in the ring when he knocked out Rebalta. The punch was ridiculously hard, right? But it worked out in Frank's favor. But, you know, Rebalta, you know, heard about the retina and said what he said. Now, he wasn't able to do it. You know what I mean? But even if he didn't say it, he would have been thinking it.
Protect yourselves at all times.
People should learn the history of the sport. You know, when you're saying that boxers should go to jail and all, listen, boxers have been to jail for boxing back in the day, like Joe Chininsky and Jack Johnson after their fight. They went to jail. That's a high-profile case. But loads of boxers went to jail. But if that happens today, because some of you don't like the fact that somebody threw too much rabbit punches or whatever legal move they made, no one's going to go in the ring. How much purses would you have to pay just the average fighter to get in the ring if they know they can go to jail? You better compensate them well. If you go to most westernized countries, you'll find plummeting numbers of boxers because most people don't want to get punched in their head for a living. The numbers in the UK, they fell from the 40s to the 50s and in the 60s. And the documentary I saw, they said it was probably due to the welfare state being a bit more generous, while a lot more young men weren't going in the ring. So it's hard enough getting people in the ring. Boxing is hard, it's tough, but it's a lot more fairer than a lot of other things in life. You know, like you get in a fight with someone roughly the same size or age, but they still want to use a weapon. Or they want to fight you 3-4 against 1. Through trial and error, they managed to get Prichard Colon into an ambulance, into a medical facility or a hospital in suitable time, through trial and error. But the damage had been done with Colon. They had oxygen, ringside doctors provided, and everything. Just couldn't do anything. Sometimes you just got to bite your tongue. I can understand why Prichard Colon fans are mad with Tyrell Williams. But if you're a real boxing fan, sometimes you just got to bite your tongue. Take the rough with the smooth. Yeah, he got fouled. But the negative reaction and backlash that Williams received, it was very much in hindsight. Because the commentators weren't saying, oh, they need to disqualify Tyrell Williams. They took the fight offline. But I watched it. None of the commentary or the pundits said that. The fans weren't booing like, get him out of there. No, he got 1 point deducted, right? And everybody started reacting after the fight. After Colon was admitted into hospital and went through what he went through. That's when the reaction against Tyrell Williams started. Not while the fight was happening, not just after. It was when we got news of Colon's injuries. That's when he got the reaction. The negative reaction, the negative comments. Yeah? He's not the only boxer who's threw rabbit punches. He's just not. He's just not. Like, you know, I'll tell you straight, I'm not a Deontay Wilder fan. I used to be a big fan, but I'm not now. But when people tell me, oh, them knockout punches he lands are illegal. No, they're not. No, they're not. No, they're not. No, they're not. Like Stavern complained he got hit in the back of his head. Lajkovic complained about it, but I didn't see it. I didn't really. I just saw you get sparked out. That's all I saw. That's all I saw. I'd love to be able to say something different, but no, you got knocked out. Simple. Like when Tony Thompson knocked out David Price. Frank Maloney said it was an illegal punch. Near around the ear, it's illegal. And then the David Price fans started saying the same thing. And I was like, my God. Wow. When Big Daddy Kane say pimping ain't easy. Nah, bruh. Losing ain't easy, bruh. People take losses bad. Yeah, they do. People take losses really bad. But they go too far with it. They go too far. And I could tell you about what is acceptable and what's not acceptable. I could do that, but that's me rationalizing. One man's wrong is the next man, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Like when James Butler, the Harlem Hammer, when he cold-cocked, what's his name, Richard Grant, after the fight had finished and he was outpointed. It was an upset. Yes, he's a scumbag. He is a scumbag. Yeah? The fight had finished. He was a scumbag. But at the same time, you know, I can look at it a couple of ways. You know, I'm not saying I uphold what he did, but the man had aspirations to perhaps fight for world titles and make big money, and there's a lot of twisted individuals who go into the ring who can't accept losing, don't accept it. You're up there all smiles, happy that you won, and you're thinking, this motherfucker's smiling in my face, and I just lost and I'm pissed off. It's the environment you're in, man. It's the environment. I certainly didn't agree with Mike Tyson and the biting. See, with me, I think biting, nah. Fouling with the weapons that are the permitted weapons with the hands, rabbit punches and low blows, not good, but I understand it a little more. But that's what people do. Boxing is a flawed concept. And if you're of sound mind in a lot of other aspects in your life, you have to rationalize certain things to explain or to justify why you're watching it. So while I'm saying, yeah, that's okay, and that's okay, but this is not okay, well, Mike Tyson said, no, I'm going to bite the guy. He reckoned that Holyfield was headbutting him too much over the course of 2 fights, and he had enough. And he said he's going to bite. Did Holyfield headbutt Mike too much? In my opinion, no. I was trying to see Mike's point of view. The heads were close together a lot of times, and I don't think it was Holyfield who initiated all of the head clashes. But I remember a lot of Tyson fans saying, yeah, Holyfield was headbutting him. Just like when Duran hit Ken Buchanan with that low blow. The Duran fans said he didn't deliberately do it, but he did. He did. And that was in the early 70s. And my guy still suffers from one ruptured testicle up until now. Yeah. But I see Mike try and twist opponents' arms and snap their arms in clinches. And use forearms and all types of illegal maneuvers. Now he's the victim because of some head clashes. Yeah, there's times Holyfield doesn't move his head from doing damage to his opponent. That's a nice way of putting it. Yeah, there are times.
Protect yourselves at all times.
Like Dempsey versus Willard, you know what I mean? Like, they reckon that Willard got ribs and jaws and eye sockets fractured, but there was 2 old guys who once said it wasn't as bad as that. Although he did get injured pretty bad. I think his jaw was broke and, you know, he might have cracked a rib or something, to be honest. But they say Dempsey, I mean, like, because his manager, Jack Kearns, was very rogue. Very rogue. He went on to do matchmaking for the mob and stuff. And they said that he put plaster of Paris in Dempsey's wraps or in a glove or whatever. Yeah, that's what they reckon. But the other theory is that he had an iron bolt in his glove and he hit Willard with it. And Willard reckons that he found the bolt on the ring floor. And he carried it around for years. Saying, this is how Dempsey beat me. He used this bolt. Yeah, a bolt with a big head on it. I remember watching that fight. I had a compilation of fights on them VHS tapes I used to buy. And my sister's boyfriend at the time wasn't into boxing, and he was watching it. And he said, what is it? It was barbaric, because them days there was no neutral corner after knockdowns. And Dempsey would just stand behind you when you was on the floor, wait for you to get up and whack you in your ribs or your head or anything. Like, Dempsey's the reason why they bought the neutral corner in. Dempsey and Willard is the reason they bought the neutral corner in, bro. Dempsey didn't take no prisoners. Yeah, they brought the neutral corner in maybe for the first Dempsey and Tunney fight. I'm not sure because there was no knockdowns in that. It went the distance and Tunney won. But the second fight, that's when the neutral corner came in and was actually enforced in the fight. Because obviously that's the battle of the long count. That's what that fight is dubbed. Controversial. Dempsey floored Tunney in the rematch. And Tunney was in serious trouble. Now, Dempsey done his usual thing, was just waiting for my guy to get up to beat him up. But the referee's telling him, no, you got to go to the neutral corner. So seconds are ticking away. And by the time Dempsey goes to the neutral corner, the referee picks up the count from the timekeeper. And Tunney maybe got 16, 17 seconds to recover. And he got back on his bike and survived. Now I'm going to zoom the picture in. You see Tunney on the floor. And now just concentrate on Dempsey and the referee. You see the referee ain't picked up the count. He's telling Dempsey to go to the neutral corner. And this is taking up vital seconds, giving Tunney time to recover. But later in the fight, Tunney lands a 1-2 on Dempsey. Dempsey goes down, flash knockdown. And the referee just picks up the count straight away. Doesn't worry about sending Tunney to the neutral corner, just count straight away. So a lot of people say that fight was fixed because Dempsey had so much of a fan base, but he had a lot of enemies because of Jack Kearns, his manager. Like I said, he was rogue. And Dempsey lost. That was his last official fight. There was the fight when Dempsey fought Jack Sharkey. You know, Dempsey's the aging fighter. Sharkey's an upcoming guy, and he's giving Dempsey the business, staggers him across the ring, and is outboxing him, out-punching him. And then Dempsey gets inside, and he's doing an abnormalis. He's throwing combinations, basically, at Sharkey's balls. And then when Sharkey turns to the referee for some assistance, he chins him with the left hook. But you see, here's what I don't like about boxing. Dempsey was revered for that. He old manned him out of it. He was too wise and, you know, too clever. But when other fighters do it, certain other fighters do it, you're dirty, you're a cheat. That's a big problem. Boxing's dirty, bro. Boxing is dirty. You know, in the bare knuckle day in America, like certain crews of certain fighters, they were killing the rival boxer after and stuff. Yeah, murders and stuff. Yeah. Them Irish settlers. Don't fuck with them, bro. There were some bad men. Yeah, some bad men. What was Hatman saying that when Lennox Lewis was preparing for Gary Mason coming off the eye surgery, he got his coach to put an X on the right-hand side of the head guard because I believe it was the right eye of Gary Mason that got injured. Yeah, they marked X on the right-hand side of the sparring partner's head guard, so Lennox would target that, preparing him to do damage to that injured eye. And Lennox basically ended his career right there. He never fought in Britain again. He fought in America in a few nondescript fights, which I think ended costing him money. I don't think he got paid. Ended his career. That right eye was shut tight.
Protect yourselves at all times.
Some serious cuts have went down in the ring. Some serious cuts, bro. Hagler versus Hearns. Hagler was cut on the forehead. The blood was pouring into his eyes. It was a bad cut, man. And Richard Steele was on the verge of stopping it. And Hagler knew he had to produce something in that third. And he produced it. That was crazy. That was crazy, man. Rocky Marciano had a bad cut on the nose against Ezra Charles, man. He beat Ezra quite easy in the rematch. But Ezra boxed well and he landed some good shots. He was a brilliant boxer. That cut on Rocky's nose, man. And Ezra was landing right crosses on it, man. He was targeting the nose. Yeah, of course he was. But Rocky was tough. One thing about Rocky was tough, man. Rocky survived. And he was very dirty as well. Very dirty. Hit you after the bell. Hit you low elbows. Rocky was very dirty. But he did what he had to do. I don't know where the bias came, but Rocky was one of them guys who used to do a lot of dirty tactics, but he used to kind of get respect. The Rock's tough. He's a hard man, takes no nonsense. Like when he fought Jersey Joe Walcott for the world title. Now, he caught him with that right hand and put him down. But Walcott's down on one knee, and like he smashes him in the head with the left, just like he totally incapacitates him. You know what I mean? And when he fought Don Cockle, the British guy, elbows, head. Rocky just like, he didn't mess around. He didn't play around, bro. He didn't play around. Henry Cooper, he used to gush. He used to gush hard. Ali beat him twice in the United Kingdom on cuts, man. Like, he had that scar tissue. Both fights they had, serious cuts, man, serious cuts. Obviously, Ali got decked in the first fight, man. Round ended, they said that Angelo Dundee cut the glove open, but there's proof, and Harry Carpenter proved it, that the glove was split during the round where Ali got floored. Alan Minter, another gusher. The UK's had a few gushers, bruh. They've had a few gushers. Alan Minter lost about, I don't know how much times he lost. At least 6 or 7 of his losses were on cuts. Just used to bleed for the heck of it. A lot of British fighters, they used to bleed quite bad, man. Yeah, Chuck Wepner, the Bayonne bleeder. I believe that's where he came from. Like, he's the inspiration behind the Rocky films, for those that don't know. And apparently they made another film called The Brawler recently this year, and it was based on Chuck Wepner. I haven't seen it. And Sylvester Stallone admitted that it was based on Chuck Wepner, where he started developing the ideas, and he wouldn't cut Chuck a check, and Chuck was going through some hard times. Chuck eventually, in a lawsuit, got some dough out of Rocky. But this guy just bled, man. Like Al Braverman, Don King associate and thug and heavy trainer. He done everything. Them days, the man would do everything, you know. And when he put Chuck in with Liston just punched him up, man. Punched him up. He was cut everywhere. They said blood was flying on spectators and everything. You know, the fight's online. You can't see the blood splashing on spectators, but you know, he's in bad shape. After they asked Liston, was Chuck Wepner brave? He says no, but I think his cornermen were. I just read on Wikipedia, he needed 72 stitches after the Liston fight. 72. He said he could feel his bones crunching when Sonny Liston was punching him. Chuck was no more than a club fighter, to be honest, you know. But he had an eventful career. He eventually fought Ali for the title and scored a dodgy knockdown where he stepped on his foot. But Ali just got rid of him. Ali got rid of him, knocked him out. One-sided fight.
Protect yourselves at all times.
Sugar Ray Robinson had a rematch clause. I think less than 60 days the rematch clause was, after he lost to Randolph Turpin in Earl's Court, London. They ran it back in America 53 days later, and he was cut badly in the first fight, and the cut opened up quick. It opened up quick in the rematch, but he managed to get Turpin out there and get his belts back. Yeah. When Turpin won the title from Sugar Ray Robinson in 1951 at Earl's Court, it was then, and still is now, the most impressive victory from a British fighter, home or away. But we've got to be truthful. Turpin, you know, he did what he had to do to win. He was an extremely imposing middleweight. He used to push weights and stuff, and he was built like a tank. Extremely strong specimen. You can see, you can look at his physique. The man's ripped, as strong as an ox. Ray struggled to deal with his strength, like in the clinches. Randolph held his own. Ray couldn't really get his punches off, and I think he underestimated Turpin's jab. But in the clinches, Turpin was smacking Ray with some rabbit punches all night, and the referee did nothing. You could see Ray trying to protect the back of his neck, but he had to take the L that night. Very scrappy fight, though. Scrappy fight, but rough fight. Very rough fight from Randall Turpin. Done what he had to do to win. Couldn't do a video like this without mentioning Fritzy Zivic. He's got a great resume, the names he has on there. He's beat the likes of Charlie Burley, Henry Armstrong, Lou Jenkins, and all the names, and got a great resume, He didn't write the book on Dirty Tricks, but he definitely had a monopoly on it. He beat Charlie Burley, and Charlie Burley said he was the dirtiest fighter he ever met. Charlie claimed that Fritzy continuously thumbed him through their bout. Ray Robinson said that Fritzy would put his hand on the back of Robinson's neck and he'd know just how to pull Ray's eye onto his forehead, trying to cut him. He took Henry Armstrong's title, beat him twice in a row, outpointed him, and stopped him. And let me tell you that in over 180 fights, Armstrong was stopped twice. Once on his debut, and against Fritzy Zivik. That's how durable Henry Armstrong was. They had 3 fights and Henry Armstrong won the 3rd one on points. Typical, he had to get the last word. Tyrell Biggs, man. The same year he fought Mike Tyson for the title, he got cut really badly against David Bay. Bad cut. I think he was behind on points against Bay, but he came back to stop Bay. Then his shot came up for Tyson. He was the mandatory. So what was he going to do? He took his shot. Mike landed a average left hook for him, and the cut just opened up straight away, quickly, and he started bleeding, and it just went downhill from that cut there. He had a great first round, though. He looked like Ali in the first round. Second round, Mike opened up, caught him with that shot, started bleeding, went all downhill. Quick. But remember the post-fight video? Mike said, I think he was crying in there when I was hitting him, going, Here's the one I didn't understand. They compared Tyson Fury's cut to Vitaly Klitschko against Lewis, which was, there was a few cuts there, wasn't it? It was quite gruesome. But here's why I didn't get. That was in June of 2003. He was back in the ring in December. Less than 6 months against Kurt Johnson for the WBC heavyweight title eliminator. There were a few people who were suspicious how he did that, because under 6 months, I'm assuming some sparring must have took place to prepare for the bout, and he was in the ring. 1988, Tommy Hearns versus Iran Barkley. Tommy threw them body shots on Barkley. Barkley said he didn't feel them body shots after, but he cut Barkley over both his eyes. And Barkley was taking a beating. But Barkley landed that left hook, bro. I'll never forget that. Middleweight title. 80s boxing, bro. Across the pond, it's sick. Shit, bro. Tommy's entourage looked like they got struck by an earthquake. Manny Stewart didn't know what to do. I think Tommy's wife was in there and she looked all distressed. It was crazy, man. Barkley knocked him out, man. The worst one for me, I didn't like it, being a Cotto fan, was the Margarito one, bro. I never forget that performance, man. Cotto was boxing beautifully, man. He was just boxing beautifully. And then Margarito landed these little few stupid punches, and then Cotto did bleeding ever, and you're like, stop bleeding. Why are you bleeding like that? It was crazy. And he put him down, and the fight was done. And then, we found out what him and his cornermen were doing with his gloves when Nassim Richardson busted him against Shane Mosley. And that automatically put the Cotto bout into suspicion, because everyone was thinking the same thing I was thinking. Cotto just bleeding from everywhere, all of a sudden. I really don't like Bob Arum. I don't like Bob Arum. I've got a video that I made about Bob Arum, but I'm not putting it up there yet. I'm gonna have to be more pissed off to put it up. Bob Arum was trying to do damage control for what Margarito did. He really was. Yeah, the yellow stains that Nassim Richardson spotted on Margarito's wraps were plaster of Paris. They were the same stains on Margarito's wraps from the Cotto fight. They were the photo taken. Bob Arum, horrible. Panama Lewis, great trainer, but an evil fuck of a man, bro. Most of you older heads will know the story, but I have to speak to the younger subs too. Billy Collins Jr. versus Luis Resto on the undercard of Davey Moore versus Duran. That was sick, bro. That was sick. I never got to see the fight until YouTube. They showed a few highlights here and there in Britain, but I never got to see the fight. That sick fuck, Panama Lewis. He took the horsehair out of the gloves, bro. The horsehair padding. And Luis Resto pounded Billy Collins into defeat. 10 rounds. It went the distance. Billy Collins was 14-0. Luis Resto, bit of a journeyman. My man's eyes were pounded into slits. Like, people are saying that the Tyson Fury fight should have been stopped. When you see Billy Collins' face, you ask yourself why that wasn't stopped. But we're talking 1983. They let things go longer back then. Collins complained to his dad, who was his trainer, between rounds that it felt like he was getting hit by a rock. After the fight, you see Billy Conn's dad, after Lewis Resto, consoles Billy Collins and tells Collins' dad and his corner, yeah, good fight, good fight. Collins Senior and Resto reach out to touch gloves, kind of like a handshake. And then Collins' dad tries to feel Resto's gloves as he's doing it, if there's something irregular there. He asked for the gloves to be impounded, and Floyd Patterson was on the commission, and he said, we can understand one glove being tampered with after they've been handed in, because that's what Panama Lewis tried to say, that somebody could have tampered with the gloves after they handed them in. But Patterson said, yeah, one glove, fair enough. But two, half the horsehair was removed of each glove. Half of it. Lewis Resto, the boxer, he was banned for life. And obviously Panama Lewis was banned from working corners for life. He still worked in gyms, and world-class fighters worked with him after, like Obakar. I know he was in Tyson's gym before he fought Lennox Lewis. I don't know if he worked with him, but he was around. Mike Tyson. This was on a Bob Arum card, Top Rank. Billy Collins, man. His face was cut, pounded up, swollen. It was horrible, man. It was horrible. He was unable to box again. He died in 1984 when his car crashed into a tunnel nearby a stream. I don't think they said it was suicide, but I think we can conclude it was suicide. And in the main event, Duran scores an upset win over the light middleweight champion Davey Moore, undefeated. And let's just say people at ringside said he used a thumb to swell up Davey Moore's eye and then went on to just batter him. And them days, the thumbs were not attached to the glove like they are today. Back in the 80s, you'd see a lot of fights end by thumbs, a whole load. Larry Holmes had a couple of them, like a couple of white heavyweights who allegedly ran into Larry's thumb. Scott Frank and Scott Ledoux. Neither one should have been in the ring with Larry. Neither. Like, when Scott Frank called that uppercut, I think that's when he said the whole thumb did, man. It was like, I didn't see it like a thumb. It just threw the uppercut and caught him, but he said the thumb hit him. On Sonny Liston's brutal rise as a contender, Eddie Machin managed to take him the distance. Eddie kept it moving, bruh. Eddie didn't stop still. He kept it moving. Some good footwork to avoid the punishment. Actually gave him a good tactical fight in some respects. Eddie said he thought his eyes were going to burn out of his head because Liston's corner made deliberate use of illegal medication. And he believed that was the same thing that was happening to Ali. Ali had a few rounds where he was temporarily handicapped and couldn't see. But Angelo Dundee, he said no. It was either Moncel's solution, a coagulant to treat cuts that was legal at the time but is now banned, or it was the stuff they kept rubbing on Sonny's shoulder between the rounds, because as well as a swollen eye, Sonny dislocated his left shoulder. My dad always said it was because of how much left hooks he missed. Just kept swinging and missing, and the shoulder came out of joint. But Liston, with his mob ties and his reputation, let's just say, a lot of people believe that there was skullduggery there. They were trying to cheat.
Protect yourselves at all times.
British fighters don't really have that kind of reputation of being that dirty. Talking about from when I started watching boxing in the 80s. A lot of people accuse Nigel Benn of dirty tactics against Gerald McClellan, rabbit punching. And then when he fought Iron Barkley, I tell you what, in my opinion, Barkley versus Benn is a better first round than Hagler and Hearns. This is my opinion. Like, Ben caught him early with that right hand, and Barkley kind of squatted down on the ropes. He kind of squatted, and Ben kept punching. And like, I wasn't sure if that was a knockdown or not. If Carlos Padilla scored that a knockdown, then Ben caught him again with some big, huge shots, put him down, and he hit Barkley while he was down, floored him again, and it looked like he was going to hit him again, but he tripped over Barkley's feet. And then the referee stopped it. And that's when they got rid of the free knockdown rule. But yeah, Ben fought like it's kill or be killed. And you had to have that mentality against Iron Barkley. Ricky Hatton was chastised heavily by Costa Zoo fans when he took that title away from him at 140 in Manchester. Ricky did fight a very rough fight, man. Ricky's head went in there, elbows and wrestling and all types of roughhouse tactics. He did what he had to do. He was up against a superior boxer in all truth. And that crowd at the MEN, they filled it out and they bought the noise, and Ricky was buoyed on and spurred on by that crowd. And he fought like a man possessed, walking through huge punches, just walking through them. He felt them, but he just walked through them. If anyone was to tell me that Ricky Hatton was going to end Costa Tzu's career that night, I would have said, you're stupid, you don't know nothing about boxing. But he broke my man's will, his spirit. Physically, he broke Costa Tzu. He broke him. I'm going to ask my regular subs for a favor to check on this post periodically, because if Costa Tzu fans get hold of this, they're going to go crazy. They went mad. They went online and made lengthy videos of how Ricky fouled and he's the worst person in the world, and yeah, couldn't handle it. They couldn't take it. When Hatton fought Juan Arango, I felt he held really excessively, held and hit quite excessively, Ricky did. But the referee didn't do much to stop it, and he got the victory. Ricky and a lot of British fans complained about Joe Cortez in the Mayweather fight. He got a point taken for rabbit punching, and he felt that Cortez kept breaking up the action when Ricky was trying to get close to Floyd. But what goes around comes around. You got away with one or a few, like the Costa Tzu fight, and this one didn't pan out that way. Plus, he was up against technical genius as well. And Floyd himself used to use that elbow very skillfully. There was one stage, and this was the turning point in the fight for me. Ricky was trying to get up close to Floyd, and Floyd used the elbow, backed Ricky off. Ricky steamed it again. Floyd backed him off with the elbow, higher up this time. And then Ricky was a sitting target now. Here's the counter punches. Bam, 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 bam. I said, oh no. And to me, I saw Floyd was going to stop him from there. That's where I saw Floyd was going to stop him. Victor Ortiz, when he headbutted Floyd and then caught the right hand when he tried to shake hands with Floyd after the break, he said Floyd was using his elbow as well. And that's why he came in with them headbutts. But them headbutts were savage, man. You know, there's a lot of people who said that, oh, Floyd, it's terrible what you did. What did you expect him to do? The referee waved them on to fight. I don't know why you're sticking your hand out there after you headbutted a man in his face. Keep that same energy. Don't play hard, then play nice after. Floyd proved himself to me, you know, because he had no real complaints. When he fought Madonna, the first fight especially, rabbit punching, tried to knee him in the groin, headbutts, cut Mayweather with a butt. But Floyd won the fight, didn't he? And won the rematch. In the rematch, he just didn't stay on the ropes as long as he did in the first fight, and he made the adjustments. In fact, a lot of the top recent American fighters have been accused of being dirty. Mayweather, they talk about the elbow. I don't think people really have him down as a dirty fighter as such. But Andre Ward, the Kessler fight, a lot of people complain how he used his head in that. Obviously, Carl Froch, bitter and sour over the loss to Andre Ward. I think Froch felt a bit emasculated by the way Ward handled him physically in the fight. I don't think he expected that. But he's always tried to take away from Ward's win and said, yeah, he won by headbutting me, holding, and whatever other fouls that Carl alleges. And he's never got over it. Ward Kovalev, they had two fights. I think Kovalev won the first one. Second one, I think Ward just broke him down to the body. Some went low, and Kovalev couldn't handle it. Fair result, in my opinion. Now, I know there's a lot of people who disagree with that, and that's their entitlement. Tim Bradley was accused quite a lot of leading with his head. He won a technical decision against Alexander, and there was a lot of head clashes. And Bradley got the blame for it. But a lot of times they were both clashing when they went to punch. Southpaw versus Orthodox. It was an awkward matchup. And Devon just happened to get the worst of some of them. I don't think Tim deliberately headbutted Devon in the fight. I don't think he did. Hopkins, he bent the rules, you know. Jumped out the ring when he was being pressured by Robert Allen. What was it? No contest, no decision. The referee broke them, and Hopkins was acting like the referee handled him so forcefully that it pushed him out the ring. And come on, man. And he feigned injury or whatever. The Chad Dawson fight, he got out of that one. Was it really that bad a slam? Was his shoulder injured? Don't know. And against Calzaghe, there was a little bit of a low blow by Calzaghe, and Hopkins milked it for a second win. He did. He milked it. The rematch versus Antoine Eccles was ridiculous, man. Like, Hopkins laid Eccles out with his rabbit punch. I don't think he recovered from it. And then Eccles realized he had to fight fire with fire. He slammed Hopkins on his back. And I think Hopkins dislocated his shoulder, if that was true. They were hitting each other on breaks, and even the stoppage. The stoppage was crazy. Like, Hopkins had him under some pressure. Then he went back and he tripped over the referee's feet. And he got back up. They started exchanging again. Eccles looked at the referee, and it looked like there was going to be a break in the action, and Hopkins just went bang, hit him. And then a couple more flurries and the fight was stopped. He used his head quite a lot against Winky Wright. I had to finally cave in when a lot of people told me he was a dirty fighter and do the research. There's highlight reels of Hopkins' fouls and dirty tactics. And yes, he is dirty. Talented, gifted, one of the best fighters of our generation, but dirty fighter.
Protect yourselves at all times.
Not going to discuss them all. You got the Tony Ayala was way out of control. But Terry Norris had some serious rage issues, man. Like, his first DQ loss was against Joe Walker. Norris floored him. Walker was on all fours. Walker was a weird character. You should have seen him getting his mean face on before the fight started. Norris floored him. And then he's on all fours, and then Norris just cracked him on the top of the head. First round, got DQ'd. He fought Sugar Ray Leonard for the vacant WBC title in 91, and he floored Leonard twice. Once in the second, and in the seventh. From the first knockdown, man, he knocked Ray down, and then he just started steaming after him. But is it Arthur McCante Jr.? I believe the referee was. He done a good job. He caught Norris's arm as he was throwing it, but the punch did catch Leonard. Norris was just crazy. The Don Curry fight, straight after. First defense. Finishes off Curry in the eighth. Hits Curry while he's down. Could have been DQ'd. The referee didn't catch it. Or just didn't do nothing about it. Then you get the three fights from 1994 into 95 with Santana, Luis Santana, a journeyman. Somehow Santana is maneuvered so he's facing the ropes, looking towards the crowd. And Norris just clocks him with his rabbit punch in the back of the head. Left hand rabbit punch. It wasn't much of a punch, to be honest. It weren't a full contact punch. And I believe Santana milked it. But why wouldn't he? He's a journeyman. You're just going to give away your belt like that? Now, this guy's fighting for nickels and dimes. Now, all of a sudden, if he can get a disqualification win here, he's amongst the big purses. And he won by DQ. They stretchered Santana off, which, Santana really milked that one. He milked it. And then in the second fight, he's beating up Santana from the first. Terry Norris doesn't wait around. He's beating him up from the first round. He floors him in the second, and the referee pulled him back slightly, and Norris had to pull himself back from hitting this guy while he was down. Third round, the beating continues. He floors Santana with a right hand, and he does throw another right when Santana's down again. Third round, Santana taking a beating again. Terry lands a right cross, and he's got Santana in the corner. The bell rings. Kenny Baylor splits them up, and Santana's walking back to his corner. And Terry just drills him with his right hand and knocks him out and gets DQ'd again. And you can see Abe Sanchez running out. He tried to stop Norris, but it was too late. It was too late. I mean, he was in no danger of ever losing to Santana. So God knows why he found the need to cheat. The guy, even against the likes of guys like Joe Walker. And there's the Troy Waters fight as well. He hit Troy while he was down in the first. Troy came back to floor Norris, but Norris got the job done in the third. Good fight. Norris, one of the more explosive, exciting fighters you'll see, but just a nut job. Total nut job. Had the ability to make a lot of his fights a lot easier, but he just liked inflicting pain. That's what he was all. He just liked inflicting pain. And he didn't have the greatest chin. And he has pretty bad pugilist dementia. It's the weirdest thing, though. If you look at him, he doesn't look like he's put on a pound from when he retired in the late 90s. Looks like a professional athlete if you see him now. Doesn't look like he's aged at all. Got a beautiful wife, but when you hear him speak after you knew what he did for a living, you know what it is.
Protect yourselves at all times.
Okay, we're going to wrap this one up now. Hope you enjoyed it. If not, tough luck. Peace.